They thought that they were nasty, could make it down and I'm like, but I'll never forget it, hearing that evidence down I say. Someone should have told you those boys about nasty USA. So don't you come looking over side down.
Man, Michael Hayes' voice is deep back then. Give me 1 second while I send this link out.
That's the way it is down here on Main Street, USA. Main Street, Atlanta, yeah. Main Street in the whole USA. Main Street, nasty and hot. So the guy that got you with the band.
Give me 1 second.
This ain't no home sweet home. Time to misery. We knew when we got here. They tried to pull us away. But when they see us walk down the street, they ran the other way. Main Street, Atlanta, yeah. Main Street in the whole USA. Main Street, nasty and hot.
Welcome to another edition of the Master of the Mat. I am your host, Anthony the Origin Bryant. Today's episode is dedicated we're going to talk about the rivalry between the NWA/WCW versus the WWF. How the NWA tried to turn Magnum TA to their version of the WWF's Hulk Hogan. How it was when Black Tuesday happened, WWF at the time, before they changed the name of WWE, tried to go at WCW. They was all in business together. Ted Turner and Vince McMahon had a fallout, and at the end, March 2001, WWF bought WCW, and now they have the library, the names of everything. So we're going to kick things off. Talk about the music you heard in the background was perhaps one of the greatest six-man duos of all time. Consisted of Michael P.S. Hayes, Jimmy Jam Garvin, and Terry Bam Bam Gordy. They're known as the Fabulous Freebirds. As Michael Hayes is the leader of that group. That's a shocker in his own right, but I'm just saying. Terry, some of you may remember Terry Bam Bam Gordy being part of the legendary tag team of WCW New Japan, Doc and Gordy. Which what I'm talking about is they was Dr. Death Steve Williams and Terry Bam Bam Gordy. It was a former WCW and NWA tag team champions, and they were former IWGP tag team champions. A lot of tag teams who hold that ranking. I'm gonna talk about that today, even. So I think it's only a handful of tag teams that been IWGP and WCW tag team champions. The Steiner brothers, Doc and Gordy, and I think that's it. I believe that's it. Also, the IWGP Championship has been defended in America with the likes of Scott Norton and Hollywood Hogan. This is before Hogan became big. That championship has WCW mainstaying that championship. So we're gonna talk. So let's get right into it. The NWA / WCW was competing with WWF at the time, and they had their weekly television shows every week, every Saturday. It was called World Championship Wrestling, and they had some good matches on there. They start bringing out everything on that show. Is when Arn Anderson created the Four Horsemen's name. It wasn't created in It wasn't created by Dusty Rhodes. It wasn't created by Ted Turner. It was it was created with by Arn Anderson doing an interview. I'm sorry, let's get a text message. Threw me off. It was created by Arn Anderson doing an interview with Tony. But the Horsemen will go on. The first set of Horsemen was Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, Ric Flair, and Lex Luger. That is the original four. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, Teddy Blanchard, and Ric Flair. They kicked Teddy Blanchard out. I mean, not Teddy. They kicked Ole Anderson out and brought in Lex Luger. They kicked Luger out and brought in Barry Windham. They kicked Barry Windham out and brought in that god awful Paul Orndorff. Not Paul Orndorff. Paul Romer. They kicked Paul Romer out and they brought in Brian Pillman. Okay, Teddy Blanchard retired for the first time of four, and the Horsemen would go on. That they bring in, they would it would be down to Arn and Flair. Then Brian Pillman came along. Then Chris Benoit came along. And Pillman got released from his WCW contract because he had issues with upper management. The real reason he got released because he punched out Kevin Sullivan in the parking lot. All right, that's what happened. He punched out Sullivan in the parking lot. They brought in Steve Mongo McMichaels, who is the god awful as announcer there ever was in WCW history. Also, with that being said, he's also the god awful United States champion as well. So WCW, the NWA / WCW, back in those days, throwing a man over the top rope was an automatic disqualification. In the Bill Watts days of WCW, you couldn't go off the top rope. You couldn't go off the top rope. You couldn't use a steel chair without being fined. So it was a whole lot of stuff, WCW. Now, back in the WWF days, they had the Immortal Hulk Hogan. They had Randy Macho Man Savage. They had Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, Ravishing Rick Rude. They had a lot of Andre the Giant. They had Demolition, a Heart Foundation. They had a lot of guys in WWF at the time that was making the name for themselves. Hogan was the big dog, and the rest of them was on top at that time. During Hogan's first reign as champion, Honky Tonk Man would begin his longest reign as Intercontinental Champion before it was broke by Gunther. Then you have Randy Savage and Tito Santana in Boston Gardens fighting for the Intercontinental Championship. Randy Savage won that match. Then you had the match between Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat and Pontiac Silverdome, WrestleMania 3, the match that stole the show. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the Macho Man Randy Savage, and they went out there and they stole the freaking show. And when I mean they stole the show, Hogan and Andre had to follow that. There was no following that match. And this wouldn't be the first time Steamboat stole the show for somebody. Steamboat have stole the show at Chill Time, the Chill Time, NWA presents Chill Time Brawl. It was Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair stole the show. I was so happy that was the main event because there was nobody's going to follow that. At the Clash of Champions for the United States Championship, Ricky Steamboat and Stunning Steve Austin, who will later become Stone Cold Steve Austin, will go on and steal the show for the United States Championship. You talk about Steamboat stealing shows. Ricky the Dragon had a habit of going out there and stealing the show and not caring about it. It was that was Steamboat's thing. He did out when he stole the show. Then you had WWF where tag team matches were stealing the show. You had the infamous Rockers Heart Foundation match for the tag team championship on Saturday Night Main Event that never got aired. But if you buy the Saturday Night Main Event collectors, that's on the DVD where the Rockers were unofficially the new tag team champions. That match never aired, so it never happened. So they, in a lot of eyes, it never happened. That's why the Rockers broke up. You and Saturday Main Event was also where Shawn Michaels won his very first Intercontinental Championship. Now, the comparison of two, yeah, okay, you had the NWA, WCW, and you had the WWF. And you had guys on the NWA, guys like the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. You had Ric Flair. In WWF, you had Hulk Hogan. You had Randy Savage. Okay? You had Flair and Rhodes doing their rivalry, which was Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes rivalry, was simply awesome. And I say awesome. That rivalry lasted for 3.5 years. They would talk crap to each other. They would hurt each other. The Horsemen put Dusty Rhodes out of commission. Dusty Rhodes came back. He took the TV title from Teddy Blanchard. He took the TV title from Arn Anderson. Then when he finally got his hands on Ric Flair, he took the World Heavyweight Championship from Ric Flair. Over on WWF side, they had rivalries. And when I mean they had rivalries where you saw the rivalries the likes of Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. You had Harley Race and the Junkyard Dog. You also had rivalries where you had Randy Savage, who at the time was going by before he became King of the Ring. You had Randy Savage, and he would later go on to become King Macho Man Randy Savage. He beat Hacksaw Jim Duggan on an episode of WWF Superstars to win that honor. In his consecration service, his brother, Lenny Poffo, aka the Genius, will go out there, read from the scroll, and pronouncing his brother the king of the WWF. He would change his name to Macho King Randy Savage. All right, he will be managed by Sensational Sherry, later Sensational Queen Sherry. Randy Savage will go on to be king of WWF until WrestleMania 7, where he lost a career-ending match to the Ultimate Warrior, forcing him to retire. Randy Savage will come out of retirement to battle with Jake the Snake Roberts. But on the other hand, in NWA, you had the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, against Teddy Blanchard. Good matches all the way around, just like Randy and Jake, good matches. But then NWA wants to step it up with their tag team division, and they put perhaps the greatest tag team rivalry of all time, the greatest tag team rivalry in the history of tag team rivalry, the greatest tag teams to rival each other of all time. I'm talking about the NWA put Bobby Eaton at the time, Dennis Colger, against Ricky and Robert, the Rock and Roll Express. The Midnight Express got rid of Dennis and brought in Stan Lane, and you had the Rock and Roll Express versus the Midnight Express, and that rivalry, Starrcade 86, a scalpel match, will go down in history as being perhaps the most dangerous but the greatest match in tag team wrestling history because Ricky and Robert, Dennis and Bobby, I'm sorry, Stan and Bobby went out there and stole the show. Jim Cornette, at the end of the night, Jim Cornette blew out both of his knees in that matchup because Big Bubba wasn't in the area to catch him. So NWA had that rivalry. The WWF had to top them with a rivalry of their own. What did the WWF do? Okay, you want a tag team rivalry? We'll give you a tag team rivalry. WWF put together a tag team by the name of Strike Force. Tito Santana and Rick Martel. Strike Force. They were rivalry with tag team champions Demolition at the time, managed by Mr. Fuji. That rivalry was awesome. That rivalry was good. Why it was good? I really can't tell you why it was good, but it was good. Strike Force will beat Demolition to become the new WWF Tag Team Champions. Later on, after the script, damn. Later on, after the Scalpel match, the Rock and Roll Express on a live show will beat the Midnight Express for their second reign as tag team champions. They will lose them 6 months later to the Horsemen, to Teddy Blanchard and Arn Anderson. Anderson and Blanchard will go on to hold those tag team championships for 317 days before losing them to Lex Luger and Barry Windham. Barry Windham and Lex Luger will hold them championships for a whopping 24 days before Barry Windham turned on Lex Luger and they lost them back to the Horsemen. The Horsemen will lose the NWA Tag Team Championships to the Midnight Express. The Midnight Express will go on to hold those championships for 677 days. They're not recognized as the longest reigning NWA Tag Team Champions anymore, but for 5 years they were. Demolition will go on to become the first ever three-time WWF Tag Team Champions and the longest reigning Tag Team Champions before the New Day broke that record. It's a lot of records being broken in WWE. It's a whole lot of records being broke. Okay? All right, and you talk about how wrestling history was formed. The rivalry, the status quo of wrestling was made with NWA, WCW, and WWF because they went out there and they did the show. I don't know what's going on with that. They went out there and they put on a heck of a show. Time in and time out, time in and time out, and they did an excellent job with it. I mean, I love watching both of them. My favorite rivalry will have to go with Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. My favorite rivalry of the NWA, WCW would be the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express. Now, Ted Turner and NWA will have a dispute with each other. The NWA will break away from WCW, and it will be WCW versus WWF. At that time, Bill Watts came in, took over as head booker, and took over as the vice president of WCW. Didn't work out in his favor. Bill Watts and Jim Ross could not do what a certain person came in and did. At that time, Eric Bischoff came in, took over WCW. Ted Turner said, "What does he need to do to compete with Vince McMahon?" Eric Bischoff said, "Give me 2 hours on Monday night, 2 hours on Monday night on TNT or TBS, one or two." Turner gave him 2 hours. Monday Nitro was created. At that time, a certain superstar by the name of the Total Package, Lex Luger, was working on a handshake with WWF. During WCW's first Nitro in the Mall of America, the Total Package showed up on Nitro, thus starting the Monday Night Wars. Shots would go back and forth. It would go back and forth. Or it wouldn't really kick off until one wrestler came out of blue. That'd be Scott Hall. Scott Hall came to the crowd doing Buckhouse Buck and Mike Ennis matchup. Scott Hall came in the ring and said, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." Following weeks will come, you will see Scott Hall with Kevin Nash, aka Diesel. Okay, you will see them. The match was set up at the Great American Bash with three of WCW's best against the outsiders and their mystery opponent. During that interview, Kevin Nash would jackknife Kevin Nash through the stage. At Bash at the Beach, 99 or 98. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. But Bash at the Beach. I don't want to say what year, I get it mixed up. It was Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, known as the Outsiders. They would go against Sting, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan. Sting, Randy Savage, Lex Luger in a 3-on-2 handicap matchup. Luger carted out, walks out the immortal Hulk Hogan. Everybody think Hogan was there to save WCW. No, Hogan drops the leg on Hogan drops the leg on Randy Savage, declaring himself with the NWO, the now formed NWO. What people don't know about that, Hogan was a little iffy about that because he didn't know turning heel was gonna make or break him. It actually made Hogan bigger than what the immortal Hulk Hogan was, because as Hollywood Hogan, Hogan would go on and do some great things. Now this time the NWA is slowly fading away. They're still doing their own shows, but now they're with ECW, and that's for another show, another time. We're gonna get to that later. Now this whole WCW WWF rivalry is picked up. They would go on the show. They would give out the results for Monday Night Raw. They would give out the show results. Eric Bischoff once said Shawn Michaels had a sidekick that he couldn't win a green belt at a local YMCA. WWF got edgier. WWF got creative. WWF came up with the attitude era, and they all went to horses. You had guys like Triple H, who was a blue blood, was no longer blue blood. He brought in the attitude. He came in there with the likes of Shawn Michaels, created D-Generation X. You had The Undertaker. You had Kane. You had Steve Austin, who was getting his feet wet. And you had all this combining. You had The Rock with the Nation. You saw greatness in The Rock when he was in the Nation. You had all this greatness under all one roof in WWF, and they still did not have the magic ingredient to beat Nitro for 84 weeks. For 84 weeks. 84 weeks, WCW destroyed WWF. During this time, you saw countless jumps. You saw Rick Rude is still the only man to this day to be on both Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro at the same time. Now, I'm gonna say this with all due respect. That was a ballsy move. Rude jumped shift at the time from WCW to WWF, and the reason he did that is because Rude knew that he couldn't get over like he wanted to in WCW. He couldn't wrestle at the time. He had a serious injury. He was dedicated to be a manager. He was fine with that. WWE didn't want that, so they put him on WCW. They put him a manager for D Generation X. Rude had no problem with that. The ratings wouldn't switch back and forth until Stone Cold until Stone Cold would become WWF champion. WWF would win in their first ratings the night of Mick Foley becoming the WWF champion. Stone Cold, for everybody wants to say the Attitude Era, the Austin era. Okay, well, if that was the Austin era, then how come during his whole reign they lost the WCW? They didn't win a rating until Mick Foley became the WWF champion on the edition of Monday Nitro when Stone Cold came back and he stunned. Hold on, y'all, 1 second. He stunned. He stunned The Rock, causing The Rock to lose the WWF Championship to Mick Foley. That's when Tony Schiavone went out there. It was a match with Lex Luger and Hulk Hogan, non-title, on Nitro. Lex Luger said, "If you think about turning to," and Tony Schiavone said, "If you think about turning to our competition, listen, don't." A guy named Mick Foley, who wrestled here as Cactus Jack, is going to win they're going to win their championship. Ha! That's going to put butts in seats. Well, that was their own worst enemy, because a lot of people started turning to WWF to watch Mick Foley defeat The Rock for his very first WWF championship. It would go on and go on with WWF winning the majority of the war. in March 2001, Vince McMahon acquired the assets of WCW. Then we had one more hold down the summer of 2001 with this invasion crap, where none of the big stars was there because they was on guaranteed contract. Guys like Hogan and Nash, Goldberg, Rey Mysterio was all on guaranteed contracts. And I don't blame him. I would have set out too. Um, the invasion angle came to an end at Survivor Series 2001, where WWF defeated WCW in a not where winner take all battle, with The Rock eliminating Stone Cold Steve Austin, representing the Alliance and Kurt Angle. The assets of both shows are still. You can watch all this on WWE Peacock, and you can go back and trade. I love watching old school wrestling because, to me, it's nothing better. It's nothing better than old school wrestling. I am a huge fan of the old school wrestling guys like the Blackjacks, guys like the Horsemen, guys like I'm a Midnight Express phenomenon. I'm a huge fan of Midnight Express. I'm a huge fan of Rock Roll Express. I'm a huge fan of the Four Horsemen. I mean, for me, old school wrestling is where it's at. This new stuff nowadays suck. Just gonna tell you how it is. My apologies, y'all. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm back. So it's it's a lot of red. There's a lot of stuff that happened. This is gonna be a short edition today because I have something to do. But this is the master of the mat. It's just been what it is. I'm going to do another show on Friday. That may be a longer show. That show is entitled the WFCW, and we're gonna have. I'm trying to do a simultaneous screen with the stars of the WFCW, and I'm trying to have some of them stars on here this Friday. But it's yeah, and we're gonna rig that. I'm gonna rig that up, try to see how can we do this. But it's one of the things where you just when wrestling was good to watch. Wrestling was it was decent to watch. Nowadays you got all this stuff where there's a lot more talking than there is wrestling, and that's very annoying to me. And I'm not a big fan of talking. I'm not a big fan of what's been going on in the wrestling world these days. It's just a lot of stuff just irritates me. Like it's like watching wet snow melt for no reason. It sucks. I mean, I love what they're doing on SmackDown with the whole Jimmy Uso and Jay Uso separating them. I love how they do that. I'm loving how they. I'm loving it because, in my opinion, this whole bloodline storyline has run its course. This whole bloodline, this is getting out of hand, and it, it's time for some new blood. I'm sick of seeing Roman with the champion. Seth Rollins is a god awful world heavyweight champion. Um, I'm just, I want something new to happen. Like tonight, you got Raquel Gonzalez versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. I hope that Raquel Gonzalez walks out as the new Women's World Champ because I am sick of seeing Rhea Ripley with that championship because she's not a good champion. Don't get me wrong, she was a heck of an NXT UK champion. She was a heck of an NXT Women's Champion. But as the main roster champion, she absolutely sucks. And I mean that. She absolutely sucks. I mean, she sucks some kind of bad. And it's this whole Judgment Day thing. Look, I'd put in JD McDonough, or stop teasing us what he's going to join. Because whoever's writing it, you guys suck. Honestly, You guys really suck. You're trying to make Roman Reigns out to be the next Brock Lesnar, where he defends the championship when he wants to. This you guys really suck with this right now. Yeah, I said Seth is a god awful champion, but at least Seth is there every week. I can write a better show in my sleep than the WWE is doing right now. And the sad part about it is they have no competition because Tony Khan does not know what he's doing. Because if he knew what he was doing, you fired your main attraction for your Saturday night show because he got into an altercation with Jungle Boy and he threatened to beat you up. You fired the guy who can sell tickets in his sleep. Yeah, he's had a dispute with WWE. He's had a dispute with Ring of Honor. He's had a dispute with the UFC. Actually, he absolutely sucked in the UFC. He went 0 for 3 in his UFC career. But you fired your main superstar for your Saturday night show. And since then, your ratings have dropped tremendously. Why have they dropped? Because everybody you put in that main event slot or that opening show slot absolutely sucks. Samoa Joe, he can't hold the show by himself. I'm sorry, he can't. Roger Strong, yeah, he's a former world champion in Ring of Honor, but that's all he's good for. And then okay, you not doing nothing with perhaps the greatest tag team on your roster, the Hardys. Next to them is the Young Bucks, but you're not doing nothing with these guys because you think that you're Vince McMahon. You can put them on when you want to. No, you can't. It made no sense to sign Kenny Omega, Nick and Matt Jackson, Adam Hangman Page to a new contract and then make all of them lose in your biggest payoff of show since coming in existence, All in London. You made every one of them guys lose. And in my opinion, the Young Bucks should be tag team champions right now. Because I can tell you right now, if Cash Wheeler would have done it, if Cash Wheeler would have got arrested 3 days before the pay-per-view, he would not be tag team champion in WWE. There was no action. There was no repercussion. There was no nothing taken on Cash Wheeler. But yet, the infamous locker room brawl that you suspended CM Punk, that you suspended Kenny Omega, Nick and Matt Jackson on. And from what I heard, Chris Jericho and FTR was also part of that brawl. You didn't suspend Jericho. You didn't suspend FTR. But yet, Jeff Hardy gets a DUI, which he's been dealing with his entire career. And you suspend this man without pay. You got a jerk for your world champion, MJF. The guy has limited skills at best. He wrestles like a coward. The Miz is better than him. But yet, he's your world champion. You got a guy on your roster who is a 3-time Ring of Honor world champion, and he's currently the Ring of Honor tag team champion. Why? Because you see no future in Adam Cole. But you got MJF as your world champion. I got a problem with that. I got a big problem with that. I got a huge problem with the fact that MJF is your world champion. Your Ring of Honor champion is, I'm going to admit it, he should have been a world champion WWE, but WWE dropped the ball with that. What up, Zoe? Cesaro, now known as Claudio, should have been a world champion WWE, but he wasn't. And you know why? Because WWE felt he needed a little more push. And they told him, give us 6 months and you'll be a world champion. He said no. He took his ball to AEW and he became a low-rate world champion and a Ring of Honor world champion. But yet, Claudio has more skill set in one pinky than MJF got in his whole darn body, and he's your world champion. That is the equivalent of making, back in my day of watching wrestling, that is the equivalent of making the Disco Inferno the world champion. I'm glad they didn't do that, but I'm just saying. People want to say, well, MJF is the modern day Miz. What? Because he can talk? He can talk, really? And yet, y'all write it so he goes out here and he beats people, and you know it's not possible where he beats people like Bryan Danielson, who is a former world champion in Ring of Honor and WWE. Yet he goes out there and he pins CM Punk for his very first win. Why? Because that's Tony Khan's boy. Tony Khan sucked. MJF sucked. AEW starting to suck. Because you are wasting talent away. You're not doing nothing with the talent you have. You inquired Ring of Honor. Well, moron, how about this? How about make 1 hour Collision AEW and make the other hour Collision Ring of Honor? Makes more sense to me than have Ring of Honor streaming on the web. Give Ring of Honor that mainstream attention. Maybe Vince McMahon should have bought Ring of Honor. Maybe Vince McMahon should have inquired Ring of Honor. At least Impact Wrestling's on Access TV and they're doing something. But AEW, you have Ring of Honor. You have partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Instead of bringing them on for pay-per-views, how about you bring them on for Dynamite? How about you bring them on for Rampage? How about you bring them on for Collision? But you don't do that. Why you don't do that? Because you don't know how to use talent. John Moxley, Eddie Kingston, who I really don't like as a professional wrestler. There really is. And I agree with that comment. I really don't like Eddie Kingston at all because he's more talk and more to action. Okay? Eddie Kingston, he would be a Dynamite wrestler if he don't shut up and wrestle. Sammy Guevara, this guy was trained by Booker T, but yet he's going around picking fights in locker room people and thinking he can do that because Chris Jericho, his buddy. When did wrestling stop being more politic than wrestling? MJF holds up AEW for more money, so Tony Khan gets on the phone, but Dad, my biggest star about to walk out on me if we don't pay him more money. Pay him more money? What money did he deserve? He don't deserve the money you gave him in the first place. He can't perform in the ring. Adam Cole is carrying that tag team. Now, don't get me wrong. WWE's got his downfalls. This whole Judgment Day crap ended already. I'm sick of seeing the Judgment Day. This whole bloodline feud ended already. You got talent in WWE. You got the OC, perhaps the greatest tag team on this planet. Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, them boys are bad to the bone. The only tag team to hold Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan, and WWE Tag Team Championships. You got the new form group with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits, the very first the second Triple Crown Tag Team Champions, which means they held all tag team championships, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown. Yeah, they doing them wrong. But yet you want to put them out there. You making AJ Styles lose to Solo Sikoa. And Solo's a bad athlete. But to lose to Jimmy Uso, what has Jimmy Uso done? AJ Styles is a two-time WWE champion. Jimmy Uso is just a former tag team champion. So you telling me the tag team champion is way more than the WWE championship? Yeah, whoever writing WWE need to be fired. I'm just saying how I feel. Then, brought to my attention this weekend, Bianca Belair. They put a hold on her. Why? Because the queen went to WWE management and said, well, she's stepping on my toes in the ring. She's outdoing me in the ring, telling her to bring it back some. And she bring it back some, and she's making everybody look better than she is, when in reality, Bianca Belair is better than the whole women's division combined. "345 days, she was the women's champion. Why? Because she was good. Because she outshined the entire women's division. She didn't back down from Becky. She didn't back down from Shayna. She didn't back down from Ronda. But for some reason, WWE wants to give Asuka the championship. I have nothing against Asuka. The most dominant NXT Women's Champion of all time. Nothing against Asuka. Then you got on Raw, Rhea Ripley. She's becoming, yes, she is the only female in WWE history to hold every single women's championship. The NXT UK Women's Championship, the NXT Women's Championship, the WWE Raw Women's Championship, the SmackDown Women's Championship, the Women's Tag Team Championship. She is the only female to hold all 5 women's championships. Why? Because Rhea is good. But right now, as a champion, she absolutely sucks. All she's doing is carrying around a stupid piece of tin, in the words of Shawn Michaels. Then you got Rey Mysterio's son, who's a heck of a heel. Every time he gets the mic, they boo him out the arena. Has no business being the North American champion. Why is he North American champion? Well, the Judgment Day needs to have more gold in it. Then give him the U.S. title, because Austin Theory darn sure would use it. But no, you give it to Rey Mysterio, who, don't get me wrong, who's still in his prime. And before he finally retires, he needs a heel turn. But for some reason, WWE wants to run his babyface crap into the ground. This is why when Jeff Hardy left WWE, Impact Wrestling / TNA had the foresight to turn Jeff Hardy heel. And it worked, people. It worked awesomely. He was an awesome heel. But for some reason, WWE will not turn people who need to be turned heel. I'll be glad when it happens. It needs to happen. Then you got AEW. I can talk much about AEW's crap. AEW over there, Darby Allin, Nick Wayne. Then okay, you want to turn the Young Bucks heel. Make them the Young Bucks when they was the New Japan Junior Tag Team Champions. Turn Kenny Omega heel again. Bring that cocky side of Kenny Omega out. Turn Hangman Page heel again. Because if Swerve Strickland beats Adam Page needs to retire. Because Swerve Strickland cannot wrestle. And the only reason he got the North American Championship in WWE is because the guy they wanted to get a championship was out on injury. I said it. It's true. The only reason he was one half of the AEW Tag Team Champions because Keith Lee carried him. There's not one wrestler in AEW that can hold up to the tag teams of the Young Bucks, of the Hardy Boys. You want ratings? Put the Hardys and Young Bucks in the best of the 7 series. The winner gets a tag team title shot. You want ratings? You put Kenny Omega against Chris Jericho. You want ratings in AEW? You put Jon Moxley against Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson or whatever he's going by these days. You want ratings? You put Claudio against Eddie Kingston, a street fight for the Ring of Honor World Championship. That's how you get ratings. You put the very best against the very best. That's all I'm saying. WWE, you want ratings? What you're doing with Gunther is absolutely awesome. He is the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion to this date. I applaud that man for that. You broke the Honky Tonk Man record. Somebody finally broke that record. Now, it's time for you to transition from Intercontinental Champion to World Heavyweight Champion. Be the Gunther you was in NXT UK when you held that championship for close to 900 days. Take it from Seth Rollins or give the belt to Nakamura. But for some reason, the WWE don't think he's going to, I'm going to get to him in a minute. The WWE don't think Nakamura is worthy enough. Finn Balor wasn't, but he was the first Universal Champion. I'm going to tell you what killed Seth Rollins' career. And this is what killed his career. The very first inaugural match for the Universal Championship. The WWE dropped the ball big time with that because instead of giving the championship to a former world champion in Seth Rollins, they give the championship to a former NXT champion, Finn Balor. What happened after that? He couldn't wrestle. He separated his shoulder. If you would have given the belt to Rollins in the first place, Seth Rollins' career would probably be bigger than Roman Reigns. But it's not. It's nowhere. Roman's up here. Seth Rollins right here. Now, don't get me wrong. Seth Rollins, he's the only man in WWE history to hold the NXT, the Universal, the WWE Championship, and the World Championship. The only man to hold all 4 championships. But do you really think he earned it? Or was it because he's good friends with Triple H? That's why he got that championship. And that's just on Raw. On SmackDown, you got up-and-coming superstars. And I say superstars when I mean you got up-and-coming stars like LA Knight. This guy comes out to the ring and it's almost like The Rock when he come out the ring. The damn roof goes off the building. But WWE's not capitalizing on that. Why doesn't he have a championship? Why is he not in championship contentions? In the past 2 weeks, LA Knight has knocked off 2 former world champions, Finn Balor and The Miz. Last Friday, he knocked off Austin Theory. I mean, come on. NXT is outdoing WWE by a long shot because I love what they're doing in NXT with Carmelo Hayes, and I see it happen. It's going to be Carmelo Hayes, Dragunov, and Wesley for the NXT Championship in the triple threat matchup. I love how they're doing the tag teams in NXT. They're going to have one big matchup for the NXT Tag Team Championships at Battleground. I love the way that happens. They're doing it the right way. But for some reason, WWE wants to constantly play on people's intelligence and constantly not do the right thing by turning people heel and doing this. Turn the Street Profits heel. Turn Bobby Lashley heel. Turn Rey Mysterio heel. In AEW, take the world title off of MJF. You got to give it to Samoa Joe, or you give it to somebody else, but give it to somebody who deserves it. Because he doesn't. He doesn't at all. Cesaro, Jeff Hardy, Adam Cole have more talent in one pinky than MJF have in his whole body. Yeah, they would. They'd be unstoppable as a heel. But all three of those guys have more talent than MJF does and hit their one pinky than MJF has in his whole body. I'm just saying. It's time out. You want wrestling to be good? I don't know about nobody else, but I'm sick of watching this rundown wrestling crap we've been watching. Let's go back to the old days where we turned on wrestling and it was good to watch. Let's go back to the WWF days where on Saturday mornings we would sit in front of TV and we didn't care who was wrestling. XR Jim Duggan could be wrestling a jobber. We got excited about. Why? Because we knew Jim Duggan was going to go out there and do his thing. Keep XR in his prayers. He's in the hospital right now. Or we used to watch WCW Saturday night where we knew the main event was going to be Steamboat and Steve Austin, and we knew he was in for a show because them two would go out there and steal the show. But nowadays, wrestling is all about, there's more talking than it is wrestling. John Moxley walking around with a title he don't need. Okay, Cesaro's the Ring of Honor world champion. He should have been world champion a long time ago, but he wasn't. But it happens. This bloodline feud with each other needs to come to an end. Either put them back together or bring them up to all together. Or, I got a better one for you. Have the bloodline versus the OC. Not rocket science. Well, maybe the WWE is. Turn the Street Profits heel. Turn Bobby Lashley heel. Turn Rey Mysterio heel. Let Rey Mysterio have one heel run in his whole career. AEW, put the Young Bucks and the Hardy Boys in the best out of 7 series. Put Kenny Omega against Chris Jericho. Put Claudio against Eddie Kingston. That'll draw ratings. And for your Saturday night show, 1 hour AEW and the other hour Ring of Honor. But Tony Khan is not going to do that because what Tony Khan going to do is, you're going to get on the phone. Oh, Dad, my show's going to tube. What should I do? How can I improve ratings? Have everybody who competes on AEW Dynamite and have them also compete on AEW Collision. Duh. I'm out. This has been the Master of the Map. I'll see you back here Friday with this Friday's episode will be the WFCW show, and I'm going to definitely figure out how to do a joint screen to bring in some of the guys from the WFCW that we're going to talk about here. They also, WFCW has a show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern. So don't forget to watch that. They also have a pay-per-view this Saturday. It's called Put Up or Shut Up. And yeah, so we're going to be there. I'm going to have some of the guys on here talk about their match this coming Saturday. I'm trying to get in contact with the end-all be-all, but his manager has yet to call me back. So when I get in contact with him, I have him on my show. But other than that, Yeah, they're gonna be on here as well. So I've been trying to get in contact with the end all be all. Been trying to get in contact with the Purpose. Neither one of their managers have called me back. Um, I've been trying to get in contact with the entire DS, and none of their managers called me back as well. So I mean, hopefully before now on Friday, I hear from their management and they agree to do the show. If not, I don't know what we're going to tell you. We're still going to do the show. We just may have to do another direction. So if anybody from WFCW is watching, please let DS know, let the Purpose know, and let the end all be all know the master of the mat is trying to get a hold of them so they can get on my show. Also, I want both of their world champions on their show. I want every champion, yes, every champion on my show this week. Mm, that includes the North American champion, the Legends champion, both tag team champions, the Intercontinental champion, the U.S. champion, the Women's champion. Yeah, and I want them all on this show this Friday. So if anybody watching who's a representative of the WFCW, I want everybody on the show Friday so we can talk about their upcoming matchup at Put Up or Shut Up this week. And the main event for Put Up or Shut Up, from what I was told, is going to be Elliott defending his world championship against Jay New. The co-main event is the Big OC versus Red Savage for his world championship. And the opening matchup, we'll see the end-all be-all versus 21 in the last man standing matchup. This matchup is put up or shut up. If you lose, you will shut up. So I'm just trying to get in contact with the main peoples of that show, the guys on the card and the guys down the card. And we're going to talk about their future in the WFCW, what their team, what they attempt to grow from this. All right. So I am Anthony the Origin Bryant. This is the Master of the Mat. I hope to see you guys back here next Friday for another edition of the Master of the Mat. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I see you all on Friday. For everybody that's watching, do not forget to hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed to the Master of the Mat, subscribe to my channel. I will be doing a weekly show every Sunday. I didn't do it yesterday because I celebrated a birthday, but I am doing it now. This is the Master of the Mat, and yeah, we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna definitely keep it going, and I'm gonna keep it going. Like I said, this Friday show is the WFCW show. I've been trying to get in contact with a whole lot of people. I've contacted management from the End All Be All, from the Purpose, from the DS, even the Horsemen. Not one of their managers got back to me. If there's a representative here from WFCW, before I go off the air, please let me know in the chat. Okay, there's no representative for the WFCW here. Well, if anybody in here is a competitor on the WFCW, let me know in the chat. And please let the owners know that the Master of the Mat is trying to get in contact with them so we can have this show on Friday. I want everybody on here. I want every champion. And yes, every champion, including the Legends champion. Including the Legends champion on my show. Okay, so please let the End All Be All know I'm trying to get in contact with them. Please let the Purpose know I'm trying to get in contact with them. The DS, the Horsemen, the Grim Walkers, everybody. I'm trying to get in contact with them for this Friday show. With that being said, this is the Master of the Mat. All right. So, person just tuned in, please like this. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe this, and let's keep it going. Thank y'all for watching. Normally I do it on Sundays. Yesterday was my birthday. I did not do a show on my birthday. So, yeah, I thank y'all for watching. This is the Master of the Mat. And it's actually, well, we're going to kick it out. We're going to push it to an hour. We're going to push it to an hour. And this is the Master of the Mat next Sunday show. This Sunday coming up show, I am going to talk about And no, I don't even know what I'm talking about yet, but I'm going to talk about something. I'm going to put on the WFCW page what y'all want me to talk about. Y'all want me to talk about, it's going to be 3 lists. Should I talk about the creation of DX, the NWO, or should I talk about the legacy of the 4 Horsemen? That's what this Sunday show is going to be about. So I'm going to let everybody talk about that. And this is, made an hour. This has been the Master of the Mat. I am your host, Anthony the Origin Bryan. Tune in this Friday where hopefully I will have the superstars of the WFCW on my show. Until then, be blessed, be nice, and be easy. I'll holla. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. I'm leaving the theme music. Give me 1 second. Ah.
Back is back, cause a mass destruction. Guess who's seeing the bad boys of wrestling? Testing competition, win the war, that's their mission. Not no mercy, see the rings like the street. If you don't know, you better find out the wolf pack. It'll prove a point. Number 1, just believe that you don't wanna tussle with them or be able with them. Come in the ring with them, you're never walking out again. Turn your back on the wolf pack. Don't turn your back on the wolf pack. Don't turn your back on the wolf pack. Don't turn your back on the wolf pack. You might wind up in a body bag. See your chances. Now it's time to show you we're wrong. In the ring, this is war. All you sucks not strong. Day in, day out, the wolf pack for life. Tell me who has the guts to come in the ring tonight. We care about the weapon because
normally the credits are going up and down. I haven't don't have to do that yet, but I will. Yo, this is the Master of the Mat. I am Anthony Origin Bryan. And I'll see y'all back here Friday. Wolf pack out.
Don't turn your back on the wolf pack.